Hello, and welcome to the Mature Living Podcast. I'm Riley Runnels, editor of Mature Living, and each month we will be interviewing someone in the community who is making a difference or has a unique story to tell. This month, our guest is Joe Napoli, president and CEO of the Toledo Mud Hens Baseball Club, the Toledo Walleye Hockey Club, and Hensville. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Joe graduated from St. John's University in New York City. After graduating, he joined manufacturers Hanover Trust in New York City. After a brief career in banking, Joe's 25-year career in sports began in Canton, Ohio, with the Canton Indians. In the early 90s, he came to Toledo to work for the Toledo Mud Hens before spending several years working for the Chicago Bulls and the Detroit Tigers. Joe then returned to Toledo to embark on the development of not only Fifth Third Field, but also the Toledo Walleye and Huntington Center. In 2012, the Hens initiated efforts to begin the downtown Toledo redevelopment of 3 historic buildings and park space, which is now known as Hensville. Joe's commitment to his family, his community, and to sports are all abundantly clear, if for nothing else, from the substantial amount of time that he has spent here in Toledo, bettering the area.
Gosh, I've been in Toledo now probably close to 30 years.
Yeah. And you moved here from New York, right?
Yeah. Brooklyn to Canton, Ohio to Toledo to Chicago, Detroit, back to Toledo.
Wow. Yeah. You've certainly been all over. Yeah. I'm curious, because you have lived in so many places, how you feel about Toledo and how it compares to some of the other communities you've been in.
Yeah, so Toledo is by far and away the easiest, most livable community. Family friendly, tremendous value on the fact that you can live a very full life in Toledo. You could work real hard, very hard, and you could play very hard in Toledo and enjoy your family and friends.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, tell me what a typical day looks like for you, both professionally and personally.
Oh, okay. So professionally, I spend a lot of my time on how we go about growing the business. Mm-hmm. And so growing the business, unkinking the hose, removing constraints, and really building out the short, long-term strategy on increasing interest, from fans across really all of the different product lines we offer. But first and foremost, really working very hard to place fans first. And then in addition to that, build fans for life. Mm-hmm. So that we have sustainable organizations that are a testament to the community. It's very important to us that we are good stewards of our place in community. So the Hens, the Walleye, Hensville being family friendly, and being very supportive of many community initiatives.
Right. Well, and I mean, not only the organizations, but you personally are such a big part of the community too. So I want to talk about that, but I am curious, you worked in the banking industry in New York and then switched over to the sports business industry. So why sports and specifically baseball, and what was the draw for you to leave New York?
So upon graduating from college, I got offered a terrific job at Manufacturers Hanover Trust. It was a management training program. At the time, it was the 4th largest bank in the country. And so it was really right out of school, being a little, I'd say, naive and new to a career. I took, it was a great offer. It was in finance. I thought it would be an enjoyable long-term decision, but after doing that for about 3 years, I really didn't see myself doing that forevermore, and didn't want to work 40 years in the industry. Didn't see myself really enjoying it that much, so I started to look at a variety of different options. And there's a book that's called "What Color Is Your Parachute?" Mm-hmm. And the author, I think his name's Roger Bowles, Bolles. I think he has sold about 10 million copies of this book, and it still gets revised each year. And it's all about discovering your hobbies, your skills, your passions in life. How do you contribute to something that's much bigger than yourself?
Right.
So I started to check off all the boxes and kept coming back to my love affair of sports and of people, and the ability to tie all that together and then make a difference in your community, I think really made it's the whole Catholic school guilt wrapped around work and business and pleasure. So that all came together pretty nicely, and started to pursue a career in sports. Moved to Canton, Ohio, so went from 11 million people in the metropolitan area to I think it was 60,000. So that was fascinating on so many levels, and so enjoyable on so many levels, that I knew that I would always enjoy going back to New York and larger cities for the enjoyment of it. But I decided then, and then when I moved to Toledo, solidified the decision that I wanted to really live in a mid-sized market,
right,
mid-sized city that had all the family values that places like Toledo has.
And I'm sure that your drive to better the community and make every place that you move to a better place is part of this. But tell me a bit about your development strategy for some of the most iconic buildings in downtown Toledo, Fifth Third Field and Huntington Center and so many more. Talk a little bit about that strategy.
Yeah, those are labors of love where, so when we were building Fifth Third Field, what we learned very quickly, we went and kicked the tires at a bunch of buildings around the country, ballparks around the country. And what we learned was some of them were extremely well done, others were not. The ones that were well done really listened closely to the fans, community, and business leaders, but really mostly to fans. And what we did was, when we were designing Fifth Third Field, the whole idea behind that was to capture as much of what the fans desired in a unique, interesting, special place to visit on a regular basis. So Fifth Third Field is really a reflection of all of that community input. Then our team members, some of which are still with us today, like Neil Newcomb and Eric Gibson and Brian Perkins, Tom Townley, and I'm sure I'm missing. They're going to tell me that I missed them, so I'm sorry, but I'm missing some of you. Not deliberately, but they all were part of it as well. So really wanted to design a ballpark with as much input as possible. Did the same thing with Huntington Center, and then did the same thing with Hensville.
Right. And you also got involved in the restaurant scene in downtown. So what prompted you to get involved in that industry, and have you found that avenue has impacted the organization in any type of way?
I wouldn't really characterize it as the restaurant scene. So what we did was we visited Columbus Commons. Mm-hmm. And Columbus Commons in Columbus, Ohio, is more like Hensville Park. So it's live music. It's everything from kid-friendly activities to live music to brew festivals and beer festivals and St. Patty's Day celebrations and Hensville Lights. It's really an event, special event, festival, live concert, marketplace. And that's what Columbus Commons put together. And part of the formula for that is having adjacent residential restaurants develop as a part of that experience. So
right.
That's really the kind of the basis. Fourth Street Live in Louisville is another example. The list goes on and on.
Right, so, absolutely. Yeah. And it is just a whole experience. Yes. When you come to a game here. You can do so many different things, which is so fun. But I'm curious, outside of just with the hens and walleye, I want to know about your involvement in the community, because you are involved with so many different organizations and constantly give back. You know, the museum, Destination Toledo, the symphony. How do you decide what organizations to get involved with? And then what is the meaning of giving back to the community to you?
So, good question. Sometimes I scratch my head because I'm not sure, how well I can contribute, what part I can play. And, that usually there's a learning curve with each of those organizations, and then you begin to figure out the possibilities of how you can contribute. It's also a two-way street. I learn just as much as I give. So in all of those examples, there's a learning that goes both ways. And I would say, the desire to be a participant in the community really goes back to really high school. So as part of the high school that I went to, Severian High School was a high school for all boys, similar to St. John's and to St. Francis here in town. And part of the learning was, how do you contribute to community? And, and that's larger than life. It's larger than yourself. It's larger than your family. But the theory that, and I guess the Christian faith is part of it is, what is it that you contribute to mankind, to people, your neighbors, your friends, your family? So that gets all interwoven into those decisions as well.
Yeah.
And my wife and I always kid around about it. It's I'm Italian, so I got the Italian mother guilt, and then the Catholic schools when all the nuns and priests were still in the classroom. So I got the paddle and the ruler guilt across the knuckles.
Oh my gosh.
All of that factors into. So there's a tremendous amount of guilt that I carry around with me.
Well, it comes tenfold to the community, so I mean, it's appreciated, whatever the motivation. Speaking of your wife, I want to talk about your family. Yeah. So with all the things that you're involved in and all the plates that you have spinning, how do you manage to keep a good work-life balance?
Oh gosh. That's the beauty of Toledo. So you can do it all. So you can work a full day and then run home and be at the softball games or the volleyball games or the theater group or speech and debate, and you can do it all. And that's the beauty of it. And we try to encourage that here. We have a lot of younger families in at the hens and the walleye, and we try to really encourage that we don't want, family needs to come first, and whole work-life balance is really challenging because we have a building full of high performers. So they want to perform well at work, they want to perform well at home and with their families, and so we got a whole bunch of stressed out people running around the building trying to keep them calm and focused, and and that's not easy, but Toledo allows for that to happen because it is a mid-sized market. You can get everywhere in 15 minutes, and it allows you to do all of those things.
Yeah, definitely. And something my family and I always talk about is that idea that a moment or a few moments can completely alter the course of your life. Yeah. So throughout your life and career, has there been a moment or a few moments that you can pinpoint that changed your life's trajectory?
There's been a ton. So I begin with my parents. So, when I let them know I was leaving the bank and I was moving to Canton, Ohio, my mother cried. She was like, "Oh my God, you're leaving this great bank, this great organization, this great career." My father thought it was fantastic. My mother did too. There's no doubt about it, but she did cry. and tremendously supportive. My father was a bit nomadic and adventuresome early in his life, so he was all about it. And moved to Canton, had a tremendous experience there, and then started to meet, once I moved to Toledo, a long list of people that have had tremendous impact on my life. So Gene Cook, who has long been gone from Earth, but has always been in my heart. Mike Miller, to this day, has been a great mentor, and more of a big brother. Other board members, Dave Huey, Shirley Timonere, and John Stockwell, who have since passed away. Laurie Johnson, Don Muhort, John Swaggart, all these wonderful people that have helped us grow the organization. And then the people I work with every day. I've been working with Eric Gibson and Neil Newcomb for close to 30 years. And then there's a whole nother group that we've been together for 20, 25 years. So it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. That support system and having good people around you is definitely a key to this. But
and my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without Annette, none of it would have happened. So,
right. I would imagine that your family is your biggest support system.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is the most heartwarming memory that you can pinpoint since you've been the president of the Med Hens organization?
It always comes back to family. So it's, all those momentous occasions that you get to share with your family and your close friends and the people that you love working with. So, there are a bunch of milestones, when we broke ground on Fifth Third Field, the first ever opening day, the first championship, same with the walleye in Hensville. And, sharing those with people that you work with, and people that you care about, so your family and friends. So there's been a long list, more than I deserve, quite frankly.
Oh, I don't think that's true, but it's definitely nice to have all of these incredible memories from the organization. I do want to ask, too, there are a lot of conversations, especially in sports, about legacy and the way that people will be remembered. Yeah. So how do you want people to remember you?
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, I hate that question. It's not my legacy to write. It's someone else to write it, about me or for me. It's never been a motivation. It's never been about that. It's always been about all of those. You mentioned earlier about you and your family, and it's all those little wins that you have together, and all those learning curves and opportunities. It's never been about legacy. I hope people say and write kind things about me, but it's not for me to define.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Yeah. But now I want to ask you some fun questions about you outside of work.
Uh-oh.
So first, what is the last book that you read or one that you're reading right now?
Oh gosh, the books, I love reading. So it's it's like for fun, it's like Jack Reacher and Lee Child. That's too much fun. Harry Bosch and Michael Connolly is the author of those books. So is Murder Mysteries, the adventure books. What's some other ones? Oh God, I'm drawing a blank after those two, but there's like 3 or 4 others. I just recently started reading about like the history of America, like the American Revolution, and that's totally fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating from the perspective of just how partially crazy and creative and intelligent the founders of the country are, and were and are, I guess. But my God, they were a basket case of creativity and ingenuity and self-doubt, and just totally eye-opening and fascinating. So those have been fun reads too.
Absolutely. And aside from reading, what are some hobbies or special interests that you have outside of work?
I love to bike ride, so on the trails, off the trails. That's always been a fun pastime for me. Much different in Ohio than New York. So in New York, you're dodging traffic, and that's the challenge of getting in and out of speeding vehicles. Here it's actually trails,
right.
And you're avoiding, bumps in the road and trees and obstacles.
Yeah.
So it's a much more, I guess, somewhat safer. I love to write, so I write about anything and everything, so that's been fun. Nothing's haven't tried to publish anything, just enjoy it. And really spend a lot of time with my family. So love being around my wife and my kids and my family. So lots of storytelling there amongst everyone.
Yeah.
Navigating the craziness of the teenage years of my kids. I still have 2 teenagers.
Right.
So that's inspiring and exhausting at the same time.
Yeah.
And our older kids, one, Marissa just got married. We love Angelo, her spouse. My son Danny, who is a whirlwind. And my son Michael, who is in Boston studying artificial intelligence and mechanical engineering. So trying to keep up on interpreting engineering speak and artificial intelligence into the English language. So that's been an interesting learning curve.
Yeah. Is there any sort of fictional character that you feel you could compare yourself to?
Oh God. It's funny, that you say that, because the 2 characters I enjoy the most, so Jack Reacher and Harry Bosch, they're qualities of both of them that I feel like are part of my personality, but I'm not 6'6", 280 pounds of muscle, and I don't know that I'm as cynical as Harry Bosch, but maybe those 2 characters, so they come to mind. Yeah.
And speaking of qualities, what are the qualities that you value in those that you work with professionally, and then those that you associate with personally?
Okay. Well, if you're passionate, compassionate, empathetic, smart, creative, mistakes are not an issue. The more the better. All your successes are based on a tremendous pile of mistakes and failures. You just want to fail fast. That doesn't always work out, though. But those are the qualities. I think I've learned a lot from my girls. My girls are compassionate and empathetic and thoughtful. I tend to be more brusque, direct. I probably would describe myself, I could be a bit more brusque and direct than I really need to be. So I'm still working on that, and I'm going to be 60, so I haven't quite mastered that yet. So lots of stuff in that mix, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And outside of the sports teams that you're involved with, what sports teams do you root for?
It used to be all the New York teams, but no, not so much anymore. So I would say, working for the Chicago Bulls, I still root for them. I don't follow them. I root for them. Fans of the Tigers and the Red Wings, not only because they're affiliates, but we've grown so accustomed to being a feeder organization. With the Hens and the Walleye, it's fun to watch players that have played for us progress and have success at the major league levels. That's been fun. It's more, I think, for me anymore, it's more about that connection. Derek Lalonde is the head coach of the Red Wings now. His first pro job was with us at the Walleye. So it's not only the players, it's the coaching staffs that get promoted. Mike Hessman has been with us, has been with the major league team, and those are a couple of names that come to mind. But there's been a long list.
I'm curious too, is there a player or an MLB organization other than the Tigers organization that you admire?
Yeah, there's a lot of minor pro sports teams that I admire. There's, on the hockey side, the folks in Jacksonville and Greenville do a tremendous job, as do the teams in Florida and Indianapolis and Cincinnati and Fort Wayne. And So, and on the baseball side, again, another long list: Lehigh Valley to Sacramento to you know, Akron, Ohio, and you know, the list goes on there. For major league organizations, working for the Bulls were like a well-oiled machine, and so were the White Sox, and that's Jerry Reinsdorf owns both of those clubs, and he was an amazing owner from the perspective that he hired all of these really good people and just let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And so he was outstanding. So that was you know, from that personal experience, I'd say they're still at that level in my mind.
Definitely.
And there are others that you know, when you look at their success both on and off the field, you know, the Yankees have been, the Red Wings, the Tigers have done wonderful work. You know, so there's, I'd have to think about it some more to give you some more concrete, specific examples.
Yeah, no, that was great. In your conversation with Brad Rieger, which
Yes.
I really enjoyed, like I said, I think he is an incredible interviewer. You talked about loving music and artists like the Beatles and Cat Stevens and more. So I'm curious what music you're listening to right now.
Yeah, so I love Spotify from the perspective that you get to sample all these different genres of music. So I'm constantly listening to different. So it could be folk music, it could be country, it could be country folk, it could be rock and country, and the genres are so mixed, and so the artists cross over, and the abundance of amazing music out there. I would just say I really love the experimentation and listening to all of it. So, you know, as of late, it's been I've been on a John Hyatt kick. He's probably one of the least known American songwriters that writes amazing music that practically no one's heard of.
Right.
And then you know, you cross over to got everything from electronic dance music to you know, to classic rock to alternative, you know, music, and alternative country, alternative rock. So it covers it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that you have such a diverse taste in music,
thank you.
because it's crazy
It's fun.
going from country to
Yeah.
EDM to rock, you know.
Yeah.
But it gives you more to listen to, which is nice.
Yeah, totally.
If you could give your childhood self any piece of advice or encouragement, what would you say?
Yeah. So I was fortunate when I was younger to realize that I had a love of learning. So I would say make sure that you. There were times that I think along my career where I thought at different stops, I've learned everything I need to know. That never really stops. So I would remind myself of that you never stop learning, no matter where you are, your stage in life. I would probably advise my younger self not to be so stubborn. The other is, how would I put it? I have stopped doing this, but I love to debate. And I think I would wear people out on the debate. So what would happen is I would debate the issue and enjoy the process so much I would lose sight of the fact that it would really have a negative effect on others, because others may not, one, feel that strongly about the topic, two, more importantly, they may not even care that much about the topic.
Right.
So that doesn't encourage for a lively debate. And three, you know, it could be a little exhausting to enjoy it that much. So I've scaled that back, and I think I would have advised myself that's probably not that healthy.
Gotcha. No, I think that's all great advice, and definitely, especially the learning and continuing to learn is so important. And finally, this article is appearing in Mature Living magazine, and the podcast will be on the Mature Living website. So how does your organization work to involve older generations in the community, and what would you say to encourage them to become fans of the mud hens and the walleye?
So the truth be told, I thought you were calling me because I'm going to be 60, and that so it made for an appropriate Mature Living story. So I think our team does a remarkable job of recognizing that every age group experiences the mud hens, the walleye in Hensville on very, very different terms. So it could be, if you're looking at the 50 and older age group, they're coming with their kids, they're coming with their grandkids, they're experiencing it on a variety of different levels. Maybe they are passionate sports fans. Maybe they're not. Maybe this is just a fun night out with the grandkids.
Right.
Maybe it's about the grandkids getting the large bucket of popcorn, and maybe it's about grandma being a baseball fan.
Right.
So it runs the gamut, and I think our marketing team and our sales team gets it. I think that's why so many people come out to see us and enjoy us, and it's across that whole spectrum. And it's mom and dad pushing the stroller and making it easy to bring the toddlers to grandma and grandpa coming out for a date night or with the grandkids. So it's fun trying to solve for all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I also want to give you the opportunity to say anything that you feel is important to note about your organizations.
Yeah.
Anything about the community or the involvement and anything like that.
I think Toledo is a remarkable place to live. And you've heard it all. I mean, we got 13,000 acres of parkland.
Right.
The metro parks are phenomenal. We live on a river. We live on a lake. We have amazing neighborhoods, great people that live in the community. The business community is a joy to work with. And your friends and neighbors are, salt of the earth. So those Midwestern values are amazing. I wish I had them as a kid growing up in New York. Had to unlearn a lot of habits being a native of New York. A lot of bad habits. But the community is stellar.
Yeah. Joe Napoli is truly the mark of a great Toledoan. When you think of all of the work he does for the community and how it impacts not only sports lovers, but everyone who lives here, it is truly inspiring. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to check out Mature Living magazine in print and online, as well as all of the publications under Adams Street Publishing, including the Toledo City Paper, Toledo Area Parent, Ann Arbor Family, Current, and Findlay Living. Find us on social media or connect with us if you have any story ideas to share.